Welcome to the Hindu Daily. Today we're taking a deep dive into a collection of compelling stories and breakthroughs from across the spectrum, offering you a concise yet comprehensive understanding of some of the most significant developments right now. We're talking about everything from the fascinating world of bioengineering and how our brains manage blood flow to groundbreaking advances in rice genetics. Then, we'll transition to pressing societal issues, examining India's new income tax legislation and the challenges facing its election commission, alongside the concerning health impacts of plastic pollution. We'll then shift our focus to the political landscape in Britain, the intriguing evolution of what we consider collectibles, and the significant historical repatriation of ancient relics. It's a broad landscape, but our mission is to distill the essential insights for you. All right, let's start our journey in the world of science with a truly innovative development. Scientists are actively transforming Escherichia coli bacteria, yes, the same E. coli we often associate with food safety concerns, into self-powered chemical sensors. These aren't just any sensors. They can actually interface directly with electronic systems. It sounds like something straight out of a futuristic lab. So what exactly makes this approach so revolutionary, especially when we already have existing biosensors?
Well, what's truly groundbreaking here, I think, is the blend of synthetic biology and bioelectrochemistry. You know, traditional biosensors, while useful, they often come with limitations.
Limitations like what?
Like they can be quite fragile, sometimes expensive to produce, or maybe relatively slow in their response time.
Okay.
These new whole-cell biosensors, however, leverage living microorganisms.
Living cells. So they can, what, fix themselves.
Exactly. That's a huge advantage. They possess an inherent ability to maintain and even repair themselves, which is massive, particularly when you think about deploying them in challenging or, say, contaminated environments.
Right. And the other key thing.
Crucially, their direct output is electrical signals.
Ah, so they talk directly to electronics.
Precisely. That makes them seamlessly compatible with low-cost, portable electronic devices. And that is a significant leap forward in making sophisticated sensing technology far more accessible.
The article provides some pretty compelling examples of this in action, doesn't it?
It does.
For instance, researchers developed a sensor to detect arabinose, which is a common plant sugar. Quite basic. The engineered E. coli cells, when they encountered arabinose, produced these specific molecules called phenazines.
Right, those help transfer electrons.
Which then generated a readable electrical current. And pretty quickly, too, within roughly 2 hours.
That's not bad at all.
But the capabilities extend even further. They also engineered a highly sensitive sensor for mercury ions in water. This one could detect as little as 25 nanomoles of mercury.
Which is incredibly low.
Yeah, it's below the World Health Organization's safety limit. And it did this within 3 hours.
How did they get that sensitivity?
Well, largely thanks to the incorporation of a genetic amplifier within the bacteria.
Ah, amplifying the signal biologically. Clever.
And get this, they even built an A&D logic gate directly within the E. coli.
A logic gate, like in a computer.
Yeah, meaning the bacteria would only generate a signal when two specific molecules were simultaneously present. It's like a tiny biological computer processing inputs.
Okay, that's really stepping it up. So this work, it really establishes a robust proof of concept for living, electronically integrated biosensors.
Right.
It demonstrates their capacity not only to detect compounds in their environment, but also to, process those signals and then supply actionable data.
And the implications are huge.
Oh, absolutely. The real implications here are vast. Consider the potential for real-time, inexpensive environmental monitoring.
Checking rivers for pollutants on the spot.
Exactly. Or soil contamination. Or even for medical diagnostics, perhaps detecting biomarkers of disease much more easily and efficiently. The ability of these living sensors to sustain themselves and operate in these complex settings truly sets them apart.
So if we look at the bigger picture, this isn't just about better sensors, is it?
Not at all.
It's a glimpse into a future where living organisms could be deployed as cheap, incredibly robust, and frankly intelligent detectors, integrated right into our everyday environments.
Yeah, it could fundamentally change how we monitor our planet and maybe even our own health.
It does make you wonder, if we can engineer bacteria to sense and process information with this level of sophistication, how might this innovation transform our strategies for, say, large-scale environmental cleanup?
Or even push the boundaries of what's possible in developing advanced biological computing systems. It opens up some really fascinating possibilities.
Moving from the microscopic world of bacteria, Let's turn our attention now to one of the most demanding organs in our body, the brain.
Ah, yes, the energy hog.
Definitely. It's a massive energy guzzler, consuming about a fifth of our body's resting energy. Now, when neurons fire, they need an instant supply of fuel, but known chemical messengers are simply too slow to account for this split-second response.
That's been a puzzle, yeah.
So how does our brain manage to get blood to active areas so rapidly? Almost instantaneously, it seems.
Well, a fascinating new study just published in Cell by researchers at Harvard University really sheds light on this mystery. They've discovered that the cells lining the brain's blood vessels, they're intricately connected
Connected how?
by structures called gap junctions. You can think of these as like narrow direct portals between cells. They allow for incredibly rapid exchange of ions and small molecules.
So super fast communication lines.
Exactly. And the researchers specifically identified two proteins, C by 37 and C by 40. These are types of connexin proteins, the building blocks for these junctions, which are highly abundant in brain arteries. And they appear to be responsible for this swift call to action for blood flow.
This arrangement sounds really ingenious. It lets signals literally travel along the vessel walls.
Precisely. Quickly signaling upstream arteries to widen and then increase blood flow right to the active brain regions.
And they prove this how? With mice.
Yeah, they conducted experiments with mice, including a group genetically engineered to lack these specific connexin proteins, C by 37 and C by 40.
Now what happened?
In the healthy mice, a widening signal zipped along, traveling over a millimeter in just a quarter of a second.
Wow, that's fast.
But in the modified mice, the ones lacking the proteins, the signal moved at only about a third of that speed. And it was significantly weaker, especially when larger areas of the brain needed that blood flow boost.
So it really hampered the response.
It did. It's almost as if these specialized connections act like an express pipeline, really fine-tuning the fluid delivery across surprising distances within the brain's vascular network.
So these gap junctions, they aren't just connecting cells.
No, they're acting as a crucial scaling mechanism. That's the term used. It allows blood delivery to precisely match the bursts of brain activity, no matter how big or small.
And understanding this, that's valuable for what?
Well, understanding this mechanism, and especially its speed, is incredibly valuable. Think about developing more accurate computer models that link brain activity to blood flow.
Right, like for brain imaging analysis.
Exactly. Such models could potentially revolutionize medical research, maybe helping us detect subtle vascular problems much earlier, or test the effectiveness of new drugs virtually.
Or even guide therapies, maybe combined with AI.
Potentially, yes. And it also prompts an important question, a consideration, really. Could the degradation or maybe loss of these connections, perhaps due to aging or certain neurodegenerative diseases, could that be a hidden factor contributing to reduced brain blood flow?
And consequently, cognitive decline. That makes a lot of sense.
That's a possibility that needs exploring.
This research profoundly underscores that the brain's remarkable energy efficiency isn't solely dependent on its neurons firing.
No, it's the whole system.
It relies equally on this hidden, incredibly fast vascular network that's constantly communicating through these gap junctions. It really adds a whole new layer to our understanding of brain health.
It certainly does, and if we can fully map and model this incredibly fast vascular communication system, it opens up a compelling question. What unexpected breakthroughs might we discover, maybe in preventing or perhaps even reversing the various forms of cognitive decline that challenge so many people today?
Let's shift gears now to a foundational crop for, well, over half the world's population.
Right.
Rice.
A true staple.
Absolutely. But a persistent challenge in rice processing has been chalkiness, where parts of the grain appear opaque rather than translucent after milling.
Right, which makes them brittle.
Exactly, more prone to breakage. This issue has plagued scientists and farmers for a long, long time, impacting both yield and quality.
It's a significant economic issue, too.
Definitely. But now there's a significant breakthrough on this front, coming from a team at Yangzhou University in China.
Okay, what did they find?
They successfully identified a specific gene they've named CHOC9. This gene, located on chromosome 9, was found to exert strong control over the degree of chalkiness in a wide array of rice varieties.
So one gene has a big effect.
Seems so. And what's compelling is that less chalky varieties consistently possessed a particular version or segment of this gene and showed a notably higher expression of CHOC9 within their endosperms.
The starchy part of the grain.
Right. Higher expression of CHOC9 meant less chalkiness.
Yeah, interesting. So how does CHOC9 actually work its magic at the molecular level? What's the mechanism?
Well, the researchers discovered that the CHOC9 protein acts by attaching specific tags to another protein, which they identified as OSABP89.
Tagging it. For what purpose?
This tagging process marks OSAB89 for destruction. It gets removed by the cell's natural machinery.
Ah, okay. So getting rid of OSABP89 is key. Why is that protein so pivotal in determining rice grain quality then?
Well, it functions like a critical power switch. It activates two distinct types of genes that are really important for starch formation and storage in the rice grain.
Which genes are those?
One type is the weakest gene, essential for producing amylose, a key starchy molecule.
Okay.
And the other are the SSP genes, responsible for producing proteins that actually store the starch within the grain.
So OSABP89 turns those on.
Right. But if OSAP89 is deficient or destroyed, because CHOC9 tagged it, then these crucial genes aren't activated as much.
Leading to less chalky rice.
Exactly. Significantly less chalkiness. Conversely, if you have too much OSAP89 hanging around, you get chalkier grains. It's a really precise genetic lever for quality control.
Wow. That discovery must have immense implications for rice breeders globally.
Absolutely. The article highlights an interesting historical note, too. Before about 1990, most rice varieties naturally carried the high chalkiness version of the gene, called CHOC9H.
So chalkiness was more common then?
It seems so.
Yeah.
But breeding programs in the decades since had, perhaps unintentionally, been unwittingly selecting for the low chalkiness version, CHOC9L.
So they were heading in the right direction without knowing exactly why.
Pretty much. But now, with this explicit understanding of the CHOC9 gene, breeders can achieve their goal much more effectively. They can produce high-quality, less chalky rice in a single targeted genetic step.
Just by introducing or selecting for that CHOC9L variant in their breeding programs.
Exactly. It's a potential game changer for rice cultivation and, ultimately, food security.
This level of precision, controlling grain quality at the genetic level for a staple food like rice, it really poses a powerful question for the future, doesn't it?
Like what?
How might this knowledge pave the way for other vital staple crops? Could we optimize them not just for processing quality, but maybe also for enhanced nutritional content? Or perhaps increase resilience against environmental stressors like drought or disease?
That's a hopeful thought. Okay, now let's shift our focus from genetics to legislation, specifically a significant legislative update in India. The new Income Tax Bill 2025.
Right, replacing the old 1961 Act.
Exactly. This new bill aims to be significantly shorter, more concise, and written in much simpler language. What was the core motivation behind this substantial overhaul of India's tax law?
Well, the driving force was largely to address the, frankly, notorious complexity of the 1961 Act.
It had a reputation.
It certainly did. It had become incredibly convoluted over decades and decades of amendments, making it notoriously difficult for the average citizen, the average taxpayer, to comprehend.
And not just complex, right? There were other issues.
Critically, yes. The old law also granted tax officials ample scope for harassment. That's the phrase used due to the broad discretionary powers it provided.
So a lack of clarity led to potential abuse.
That was the concern. The new bill represents a massive simplification effort. It slashes the number of chapters from 47 down to 23 and sections from 890.19 to 536.
That's a significant cut.
It is. And the stated purpose, according to Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, was explicitly for simplification, not to alter tax rates or slabs, and to achieve greater clarity through more user-friendly tables and formulae.
That sounds like a welcome change on the surface.
Yeah.
More transparency, less arbitrary enforcement, perhaps. The article also mentions some taxpayer-friendly features.
Yes, like the ability to update returns up to 4 years from the assessment year without penalty. That's potentially helpful.
Okay. However, it seems not all aspects of this new law are viewed as entirely positive, particularly when it comes to the powers granted to tax officials.
Yes, this is where a key concern arises. While the new bill aims for simplification, it introduces provisions regarding searches by income tax officials that significantly expand their authority.
Expand how?
Under the old law, officials could inspect electronic documents, sure, and even break locks if necessary. The new law, however, mandates that anyone possessing electronic documents or information must not only provide reasonable technical and other assistance,
Which sounds okay.
but is now explicitly required to share passwords.
Share passwords? Seriously?
Yes. And furthermore, it empowers tax officials to override the access code to any computer system if a password isn't provided.
Override access codes. That sounds invasive.
It represents a substantial shift, absolutely, in the
Yeah.
balance between state power and individual digital privacy.
What's the justification given for these expanded powers?
The justification provided is that, well, a great deal of relevant financial information is now shared over messaging services or stored in personal emails. So they argue such access is necessary for comprehensive assessment.
Okay, I see the argument, but looking at the practical impact, what does this all mean for your privacy as a citizen?
It essentially creates a potential pathway, a legal one, for tax officials to access your social media communications, your personal emails, if they deem it necessary for an income tax assessment.
That's a considerable expansion of state reach into personal digital spaces.
It is. And when a government seeks to simplify its legal framework but simultaneously introduces provisions that significantly expand state power into private digital realms, it truly prompts a critical question.
Which is?
Where should the boundary be drawn between the legitimate need for enforcement on one side and the fundamental right to individual liberty and digital privacy on the other? It's a tough balance.
Indeed. Now let's turn our attention to another crucial institution in India,
Yeah.
the Election Commission. It's a permanent constitutional body, but it's currently, as the article puts it, in the eye of a storm.
Yes, facing significant scrutiny.
The leader of the opposition, Rahul Gandhi, recently leveled accusations against the EC, citing massive electoral roll manipulations in Karnataka. And these allegations follow similar concerns raised previously in Maharashtra and Haryana.
Right, so it's not an isolated incident being alleged. And what's particularly challenging for the Election Commission right now is that this controversy is compounded by ongoing judicial scrutiny
Judicial scrutiny of what, exactly?
of the Special Intensive Revision, or SIR, of electoral rolls in Bihar. That process is under review by the courts.
Okay. And there's another factor adding to the tension.
Yes. A new law passed in 2023 significantly altered the EC's appointment process. It established a 3-member selection committee.
Who's on the committee?
It comprises the Prime Minister, a union minister nominated by the PM, and the leader of the opposition in the Lok Sabha.
So 2 government representatives and 1 opposition leader.
Exactly. And the opposition naturally argues that this structure effectively gives the government a 2-to-1 majority in selecting election commissioners, thereby raising serious concerns about the impartiality and independence of the Election Commission itself.
That appointment process change is definitely controversial. Now, tell us more about this R exercise in Bihar that's under scrutiny.
Well, the SIR exercise in Bihar became a major flashpoint because it resulted in a dramatic drop 65 lakh, that's 6.5 million voters in the draft electoral roll.
6.5 million. That's huge.
It is. The roll shrank from nearly 79 million voters down to about 72.4 million. The Election Commission attributed the substantial reduction to standard reasons like deaths, duplicate registrations, people migrating, or voters being untraceable at their listed addresses.
But not everyone accepted that explanation.
No. Civil society organizations and opposition parties were not convinced and promptly challenged the process, and specifically these deletions, in the Supreme Court.
And what did the Supreme Court do?
Their intervention highlights the gravity of this situation. On August 14th, the court issued an interim order. It directly instructed the Election Commission to publish a detailed, booth-wise list of all 6.5 million deleted electors.
A public list.
Yes, along with the specific reasons cited for each deletion. Furthermore, the court directed the EC to accept Aadhaar as proof of identity for voters, which had been a point of contention.
So the court is demanding transparency. How have critics responded?
Critics like Alok Kumar Prasanna from the VD Center for Public Policy have publicly stated that this situation reflects poorly on the EC's handling of the electoral process. They suggest there's a potential for mass disenfranchisement if these issues aren't adequately addressed and corrected. This judicial intervention is really a significant moment for electoral integrity in India.
And the political fallout from these controversies has been considerable, right? Even impacting Parliament.
Yes, it contributed to the paralysis of Parliament's monsoon session. And beyond these specific allegations in Bihar and other states, there's that broader, long-standing issue facing India's democracy, the challenge for migrant voters.
You mean the difficulty they face in actually voting?
Exactly. They still face the huge financial cost and the logistical effort of having to return to their registered polling places, often hundreds or thousands of kilometers away, just to cast their ballots. It's a significant barrier that can substantially depress voter turnout nationwide.
So in an era marked by increasing political polarization and these growing migrant populations, it really raises a vital question.
What concrete steps can actually be taken to fundamentally restore public trust in electoral processes? And how can we ensure that every eligible voter can cast their ballot without facing undue burden, suspicion, or the potential for disenfranchisement? It's a critical challenge.
All right, let's unpack a critical and increasingly urgent global issue now. Plastic pollution.
A problem that's literally everywhere.
It really is. Recent talks in Geneva, involving representatives from around 180 countries, unfortunately failed to reach a consensus on a binding legal agreement to restrict plastic pollution. Given how visible plastic waste is, why is reaching a global accord proving so incredibly difficult? And what's the bigger picture here, beyond just the waste we see?
Well, a core part of the challenge lies in the sheer complexity of plastics themselves. They're not just simple polymers, they are incredibly complex mixtures.
Mixtures of what?
Of polymers, leftover monomers, and an astonishing array of chemical additives, thousands of them. The article points out that there are potentially over 16,000 chemicals used or present in plastic materials.
16,000.
Yes, and here's the really alarming part. For more than 10,000 of these chemicals, there's little to no information available about their human health impacts or their environmental impacts.
We just don't know what they do.
Largely no. A Nature report last year even concluded that over 4,000 chemicals of concern can be present in each major plastic type. This huge lack of transparency and basic knowledge about their chemical footprint makes regulation incredibly complicated.
That's staggering. For many years, the public and policy focus was primarily on the visible stuff, right? Recycling, waste management, cleaning up beaches.
Exactly, dealing with the end-of-life plastic items. But now, scientific investigation is undergoing a critical shift.
A shift towards what?
Researchers are intensely focusing not just on the visible plastic pieces, but on how these often indestructible chemicals within the plastics make their way into living organisms.
So moving from the macroplastic problem to the micro and chemical problem.
Precisely. How they get into rivers, oceans, land, and ultimately how they accumulate inside people. This refocus is fundamentally changing how we need to view the plastic problem.
This shift naturally leads to a crucial question then. What concrete evidence do we actually have that plastics, or more specifically their chemical components, are actively harming human health?
That's the key question. Studies involving over 1.1 million individuals, mostly in the developed world, it should be noted, have established associative links.
Associative, meaning correlation.
Yes, correlations between exposure to common plastic chemicals, things like bisphenols like BPA, phthalates, and PFAS, those forever chemicals often found in food containers, medical items, cosmetics.
Okay.
Links between exposure to those and various health issues, things like altered thyroid function, hypertension, and even several types of cancer.
But these are associations, not proven causation yet for many.
Correct. Establishing direct causation is complex. However, the growing discovery of microplastics inside the human body found in blood, breast milk, even bone marrow, further emphasizes how pervasive our exposure is, even if their exact biological impact is still under active investigation.
So given this complex global challenge, with thousands of unknown chemicals and stalled treaty talks, what actions is India taking, and what's its stance internationally?
Well, domestically, India has implemented a ban on many single-use plastics in nearly 20 states. That's a commendable effort aimed at tackling the immediate waste management problem, the visible side of it.
Okay, but internationally?
Internationally, the article highlights that India, along with several other countries, has expressed reservations about including extensive health discussions within the framework of the Global Plastic Treaty negotiations.
Why is that?
Their stated position has been that these health-related aspects fall under the purview of the World Health Organization. It suggests perhaps a desire to keep the focus of the plastic treaty more narrowly on waste and pollution control, rather than delving deep into the broader chemical safety and human health implications during these specific negotiations.
That's an interesting distinction. So if we consider the vast number of chemicals and plastics with unknown health impacts and the difficulty of achieving global consensus on comprehensive regulation, it prompts a profound question for everyone listening.
What innovative consumer-driven solutions or perhaps scientific breakthroughs could truly empower you to make more informed choices? And how can you advocate effectively for a fundamentally safer material future beyond just focusing on recycling bins?
Now, let's pivot to the dynamic world of British politics, where something quite significant has happened recently.
A new political force emerging.
Potentially. Jeremy Corbyn, the former Labour leader, has made headlines by announcing the formation of a new left-wing political party. It's provisionally called Your Party, and he's launching it alongside former Labour MP Zara Sultana.
Right, so Corbyn is back in the electoral arena, but outside Labour.
Exactly. This move clearly signals a bold new chapter for one of Britain's most distinctive and often quite controversial political figures.
Corbyn's political journey has been, well, nothing short of remarkable, really. His bid for the Labour leadership back in 2015 was genuinely, totally unexpected.
Nobody saw it coming.
Not really. It was largely fueled by what many perceived as deep exasperation with the centrist legacy of Tony Blair's New Labour years. He emerged as this authentic voice opposing neoliberalism, someone advocating for mass movement politics.
And his foreign policy stance was quite different, too.
Very different. An uncompromising, anti-imperialist foreign policy that was truly unique for a leader within a mainstream social democratic party in Europe at the time. And remember, his 2017 election campaign actually delivered Labour's biggest vote swing since 1945, defying all the polls and predictions.
Yes, that was a stunning result. Despite that unexpected success, though, his leadership was, as the article vividly puts it, constantly undermined.
From within and without.
Exactly. By fierce resistance from within his own party, an estimated 80% of Labour MPs were apparently opposed to him, and a relentlessly hostile media landscape.
It created an environment that felt, as the article says, like an encampment in the middle of enemy fire. It must have been incredibly difficult.
And then there were the allegations of anti-Semitism.
Yes, frequently linked, fairly or unfairly, to his long-standing solidarity with Palestinian rights. These created what the article terms moral damage that significantly hampered and ultimately seemed to paralyze his leadership, overshadowing much of his domestic agenda.
Looking at the broader political landscape, what finally ended his leadership?
Well, Brexit ultimately proved to be the fatal blow. The party was deeply divided, and navigating that was incredibly challenging.
And his successor, Keir Starmer.
While Starmer systematically dismantled much of Corbyn's policy legacy upon taking over, it's actually quite noteworthy that Starmer's landslide victory in 2024, well, it garnered fewer actual votes than Corbyn's defeat in 2019.
Really? How did he win then?
Starmer's win was primarily attributed to a significant collapse of conservative support rather than an overwhelming surge in New Labour enthusiasm.
I see.
And Starmer's continued embrace of centrist policies, ongoing austerity measures, and a steadfast defense partnership with Israel have, according to this analysis, created the very political vacuum on the left.
The Corbyn's new party now hopes to fill.
Exactly. Appealing to those disaffected left-wing voters who feel unrepresented by Starmer's Labour.
So for you, as an observer of global political shifts and the evolution of parties, what does this all mean? Can this work?
Well, Corbyn's new venture faces formidable challenges, let's be clear. He is 76 years old now. And the current political climate is shaped by different dynamics than when he first rose to prominence back in 2015. Think about heightened immigration anxieties, cultural polarization. It's not just about economic grievances anymore.
True, the landscape has shifted.
However, you can't ignore the early grassroots enthusiasm for your party. Over 650,000 signups reported already. That undeniably suggests there's a genuine hunger for an alternative to Starmer's increasingly centrist approach within the Labour Party. There's clearly an audience there.
So when we consider this global political landscape increasingly marked by disillusionment with established parties everywhere, it raises a compelling question.
How likely is it, really, that a figure from a previous political era like Corbyn can successfully mobilize a genuinely new movement? And can he fundamentally reshape a nation's political future in the face of all these contemporary challenges and change dynamics? It's a fascinating experiment to watch.
All right, let's explore a fascinating cultural shift now. The curious case of collectibles. The very meaning of what we consider collectibles seems to be truly evolving.
It's not just about dusty antiques anymore.
Exactly. It's no longer solely about rare antiques with centuries of history. It's increasingly about items possessing, quote, contemporary artistic value.
Right, things being made now.
The article highlights designer Sanjay Garg, who's renowned for his beautiful saris. He recently released a limited edition series of objets d'art, including a striking The Yam Dancer's body armor.
Wow, that's quite specific.
It is. And what followed was apparently a palpable clamor from his audience base to possess it, really showcasing this new kind of demand for contemporary artistic objects.
And this trend, as the article details, has truly exploded in India, hasn't it?
It seems so. We're seeing numerous craft and design brands launching dedicated verticals, separate lines, just for collectibles.
Often extensions of their main product.
Yes, extensions of their main product lines. But these collectible pieces are created with significantly more labor, more intricate detailing, and crucially, they're produced in strictly limited numbers.
Scarcity still plays a role.
Definitely. Examples abound. We have intricately embroidered panels that reproduce works by renowned contemporary artists, exquisite hand-blown glass lamps designed to mirror the architecture of temples, and even collectible carpets featuring designs by prestigious contemporary artists and designers.
So it's a deliberate fusion of traditional craftsmanship with modern artistic expression aimed at a collector's market.
Precisely. But this emerging definition seems to fly in the face of what many traditionally understand as a collectible, right?
You mean items defined by age, rarity, and that rich, verifiable backstory?
Exactly. Think of an ancient Chola bronze statue, maybe, or a classic mid-century modern Pierre Jeanneret chair from Chandigarh. That's the traditional image.
And some experts are skeptical of these new items.
Yes, some, like Ashwin Rajagopalan of Ashvita's gallery, voice that skepticism. He argues these new items are potentially more marketing labels than a true collectible, suggesting they might lack that inherent historical depth or proven long-term value.
The is it art or is it commerce debate. But this brings us to a pertinent question then. What truly defines a collectible in today's fluid market? Is it just age and rarity?
Well, noted collector Ranveer Shah and curator Srila Chatterjee offer a compelling counter-argument in the piece.
What's their take?
They propose that if someone is willing to pay a premium for an object they genuinely desire to acquire and keep, then by definition, it is a collectible to that person and in that context.
So value is partly subjective and driven by desire.
Seems to be their point. They cite historical examples like Ladro porcelain figurines or even Mozamdar's iconic textiles designed for Fabindia back in the day.
Things that were once affordable but are now sought after.
Exactly. Once widely affordable, now highly sought after and valuable. Their argument is that if an object is handmade, if it's the result of a special collaboration, or if it embodies a unique craft legacy, then acquiring it is essentially buying into that broader cultural and artistic heritage, regardless of its age.
That makes sense. You're collecting a piece of contemporary culture or craft.
Right. So for you listening, whether you're a consumer, maybe an aspiring collector, or just an observer of these cultural trends, what's the takeaway here?
Well, Deepshika Khanna makes an insightful point in the article. She notes that adding objects which visually articulate a brand's identity and story is a lovely way to expand your brand and your community.
Deepening the connection between creators and consumers.
Exactly. It's also notable that younger professionals seem increasingly drawn to more affordable, design-centric items that speak to their aesthetic. And post-COVID, with people spending more time and maybe more money on their homes, there's a clear increased investment in art and design that resonates personally.
So if the perceived value of an object is increasingly rooted in its contemporary artistic merit, its connection to culture, and the community it fosters around it,
it prompts a compelling question. How might this fundamental shift actually democratize the world of collecting? Could it make it significantly more accessible, more inclusive, and maybe more diverse for you in the years to come? Less about just the ultra-wealthy buying ancient artifacts.
Interesting point. And speaking of ancient artifacts, here's a truly remarkable story that blends history, spirituality, and modern diplomacy.
Okay, this sounds significant.
It is. Back in 1897, an archaeological excavation in Piprawa, a site believed to be the ancient Kapilavastu, the Buddha's ancestral home, unearthed an astonishing find.
What did they find?
Bone fragments, ornate caskets, and gold items buried within an ancient stupa. Crucially, an inscription found on one of the caskets unequivocally confirmed that these were relics of the Buddha himself.
Actual relics of the Buddha? That's incredible.
The historical and spiritual significance is, well, immense. There's a strong scholarly consensus that these fragments are indeed part of the Buddha's original cremated remains.
The ones entrusted to his family.
Exactly. The ones entrusted, according to ancient texts, to his paternal family, the Shakyas, after his Mahaparinirvana, his passing. The archaeological dating, the context of the find, the location, and that definitive ancient Brahmi inscription on the casket all serve to corroborate their authenticity and immense historical value.
So for millions worldwide, these aren't just artifacts. They are profoundly sacred objects.
Absolutely. Now fast forward over a century to this year, and a very concerning development emerged.
What happened?
The great-grandson of the original British excavator W.C. Pepe attempted to auction these invaluable relics at Sotheby's, Hong Kong.
Auction them. Buddha's relics.
Yes. This immediately sparked widespread global condemnation from an array of voices. Scholars, monastic leaders from various Buddhist traditions, historians, and Buddhist communities across the globe were outraged.
Understandably so.
India, recognizing the profound cultural and religious importance, promptly issued a legal notice. And following intense diplomatic intervention and negotiation.
They were returned.
Yes, thankfully. The relics were successfully returned to India on July 30th of this year.
That's a relief. But this incident naturally brings to the forefront a profound and often debated question, doesn't it?
About where such items belong.
Exactly. Are museums truly the most appropriate place for relics like these, which are frequently regarded not merely as historical objects, but as living embodiments of spiritual heritage?
It's a complex issue. Art historian Naman Ahuja, who is quoted in the article, offers an interesting perspective on this.
What does he suggest?
He argues that while ancient relics were historically revered within stupas and often paraded during religious festivals, modern museums, if managed thoughtfully and respectfully, can perform similar functions in a contemporary context.
How so?
He suggests they can showcase these relics with profoundly knowledgeable communication, framing them appropriately, highlighting them as symbols of highest civilizational achievements, thereby allowing for both reverence and scholarly engagement, just in a different setting than an active temple, perhaps.
So a potential role for museums, but one that requires great sensitivity.
Absolutely. Ahuja also delivered a particularly sharp critique regarding the post-colonial politics surrounding this specific case.
What did he point out?
He specifically noted the UK government's apparent lack of action in preventing the auction attempt. He suggested they seemed, in his view, to protect the potential monetization of these deeply significant relics by the auction house Sotheby's and the Bepi family.
That's a strong accusation.
He described the situation quite bluntly as the textbook definition of colonialism. You take something for free from the colony and sell it back to the colony at a price you stipulate.
Wow.
And it's notable that India ultimately had to rely on the generosity of a private philanthropist to secure the funds needed for the return of these priceless artifacts, rather than formal governmental intervention from the UK side resolving it directly.
That adds another layer to it. So the repatriation of these Buddha relics, it vividly highlights this ongoing tension, doesn't it, between historical ownership, colonial legacies, and our contemporary ethical responsibilities surrounding cultural artifacts.
It really does. And for you, the listener, what broader implications does this particular case hold? For that increasingly urgent global debate about the return of cultural artifacts to their original places of origin and ensuring their rightful custodianship, it's something worth reflecting on. Thank you for listening. If today's deep dive gave you something useful, consider following us on Spotify so you're the first to hear the next one. You can give suggestions by contacting on Twitter handle given in the episode description. As always, we are eager to hear what our listeners want to be informed about. We wish you a great day,